What's happening? What's going on? Part of my President's YouTube channel. Now, I know everyone's talking about Kanye West and the Drink Champs interview and all the things that's been going on in the past 2 weeks regarding Kanye West, but I don't want to get into that right now. I'm not too sure if I will give my opinion or analyze what's been going on with Kanye West, but what I want to focus on is a particular clip from a show called A Hell of a Week. It's a show by Charlemagne the God that's on Comedy Central, and I take a lot of issue with some of the comments that were made by Charlemagne and his panel of guests. Now, let's get right into it. I'm going to play the clip, and I'm going to get back to you, and I'm going to share my opinion on certain things here.
It's time to talk Jews. I mean news. news, okay? Let's get started on this mess, all right? Topic one. The curious case of KK Kanye. He's a Nazi as far as I'm concerned, okay? If you wake up and choose white supremacy and decide to push anti-black slogans and anti-Semitic rhetoric all in the span of 7 days, you are a Nazi, all right?
Why are Charlemagne's eyes bucking like that? Anyways, look, if you know anything about your history, you know anything about World War II, then you know about the rise in Hitler and the Nazi fascist movement in Germany. You also know about the fact that they invaded many countries in Europe. They battled many countries, and they were part of the axis of evil. And you also know about the internment camps and the Holocaust that occurred. And if you're not completely aware, it wasn't just Jewish people that were affected by the Holocaust. There were many other races that were affected, and also people who were not completely able-bodied people that were also affected in these internment camps as well, too, because the whole thing about the Nazis is that they believed in one master or superior race, and that was blonde hair and blue eyes. And that was really supposed to be the master race. And anyone that didn't fall into that category could be and was subjected to internment camps and other atrocities. So for Charlemagne to label Kanye West a Nazi, it's a completely dishonest statement. It's a disingenuous argument, and there's really no bearing to it whatsoever, because Kanye West has never killed anybody. He's never advocated for any harm towards any group. He's never made statements to promote any violence towards any group. And even through all of his rants that he's had, whether it's on TMZ or even it's on social media, he's never ever called to action any type of harm to anybody or have any points of views that would place him or his group of people as superior over others. He doesn't subscribe to those ideologies whatsoever. So I felt it kind of weird for Charlemagne to have this label placed upon him. And I also felt that this is a start of a real dishonest conversation. But let's see where this goes. But then he hands it off to his panel of guests, which consists of Jemele Hill. We all know about Jemele Hill and how she gets down. Then there's Marlon Wayans, and then there's Amber Ruffin. Now, Amber Ruffin has a talk show on a Peacock app, and she seems to be plugged into certain things as well, too. She was on the Hillary Clinton show called Gutsy, where they're highlighting women and empowerment and all those things. So she's plugged into that. And we all know Marlon Wayans and the Wayans family, the royalty, right? Black royalty. Anyways, so those are the panelists. Now, Charlemagne gives it off to Jemele Hill, and Jemele Hill does what Jemele Hill has been doing for years, which is find a way to attack another black man in regards to certain things that are said. But let's hear what Jemele says here.
My first question, Jemele, you're always good with thoughts. Do you have any?
Well, I'm trying to say this without using a bunch of cuss words, but like, he's a buffoon and he does buffoon shit. I mean, that's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, you have name calling, you have Jemele Hill attacking Kanye West, no sense of compassion or being sensitive with the words that you use to describe someone who may be suffering from a mental illness or a mental health episode. So it's kind of odd that we see, well, no, it's actually not odd. This is how Jemele Hill always responds when it comes to these type of things. But here's what I want to zone in on and highlight, because I think this is very important. This pretty much, to me, pretty much sums up everything that's been going on in the past 2 weeks and why it's important that we look at what's been happening as far as Kanye West and his message in a proper light. Because Charlemagne makes a statement that I have to give him credit to. It's very honest, it's very straightforward, and it really cannot be debated. But look at how Jemele Hill interjects comes in and tries to throw shade and tries to divert from what was actually being said and doesn't really address the problem. But listen to this.
My thing is, though, why is it okay for, like, anti-black rhetoric to be left in these interviews, but anti-Semitic rhetoric gets removed? Shouldn't all bigotry be removed?
Oh, yeah.
You had better say that.
But you already know what it is. As a country, as a nation, we're extremely comfortable with that position. I mean, we've been anti-black from the beginning. It's a default mechanism for us. But the other part, too, to shift a little responsibility as a community, we're not responsible for Kanye and his antics, but we have tolerated them because we're a protectionist community. We step outside somebody that's in his position that is giving us good music. We have provided cover for this individual for a very long time.
But see, Jemele, this is where I disagree with you, because we're not a protectionist community. Because when it comes to show business and the music industry, Kanye West, as we're seeing right now, Kanye West is on his own. He just had Noriega from the Drink Champs, who gave him a platform, pretty much backpedal and apologize numerous times on numerous platforms, and then delete the entire 3-hour interview. So we do not protect our own when it comes to these things. A lot of times we leave people hung to dry. It's not because we're not willing to protect people, we don't want to, because in most situations we either don't have the power or we don't want to put our neck on the line and lose our livelihood and our ability to earn income. So this is why a lot of times we stay silent, and in these cases, this is why Kanye West is pointing out that he's going to be the sacrificial lamb, that he's going to speak out where most people cannot. So I disagree with what Jemele Hill is saying, but there's more to this. Now, if she wanted to say that we're a welcoming community, then I would agree with her to a certain extent, because there are cases where we welcome a lot of outsiders that maybe sometimes we shouldn't, but we do so because we have empathy. We also understand what it's like to be on the outside, to not be included. So we tend to go above and beyond to make sure that people feel welcome, whether it's in our homes, whether it's in our parks, our barbecues, our family and social gatherings. We are very open to allowing people to come in, right? So I'll give that if that's what she was saying, but it's not. She's saying that we covet and we protect and we shield and we prevent people from being held accountable. That's not the case.
So in some ways, unlike in the Jewish community, it's certain shit that's just not gonna ride. In the gay community, there are certain things that are not gonna ride. We do not have that same attitude about in terms of holding each other accountable. Yeah, I understand that we have to protect each other because we know when you're in a position that you're in, when Amber, Marlon, myself, that we have to look out for those who have made it to a certain point differently. But we can't do it to the point that it disrespects our integrity and it comes after our self-respect. And unfortunately, we've done that.
And that's right. And why should we protect you if you're shitting on us?
What makes the statement even more laughable is that she gives examples of other communities that do hold their members accountable, that do uphold values and make sure that people are on the straight and narrow. And she lists Jewish people and the LGBTQ community. Now let's look into this for a second, because I can name a few people that are of the Jewish community that weren't held accountable, that were protected, that were shielded. Harvey Weinstein, we know how he was protected for decades. And also Jeffrey Epstein. We also know how he was protected. We just saw recently how Kanye West has to change banks because JP Morgan has decided to cut ties and not do business with him or allow the Yeezy brand to use their banking services. But Jeffrey Epstein was also doing business with JP Morgan and other banks. They never cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Even though all of the things that he was doing in regards to all of those illegal activities with minors, and they never distanced themselves. If you know about the story about Jeffrey Epstein and the fact of how he even became wealthy, nobody said anything. No one did anything. And a lot of people were in the inner circles that were of the Jewish faith, and they did not alert the authorities and they did not ostracize him. He was still a part of that community. And then if you look at the LGBTQ community, I could bring up the politician Ed Buck and what he was doing with male prostitutes, and the fact that he was able to not get charged, or charges would get dropped, and he was able to do it again and again and again, to the point where there were more victims who were killed based on his doing. And no one held him accountable too, because for whatever reason, he is in that community and he was protected. So shame on you, Jemele Hill, for making those statements that are untrue, that are completely lies. And I'm calling you out on your behavior and the messages that you gave on that particular show. Now, as far as Amber Ruffin, she didn't say anything that I found offensive or that I agree with, so I'm pushing her to the side. Now, as far as Marlon Wayans, I'll give him credit because he said certain things and he showed compassion, he showed empathy, and he really hit home the fact that Kanye West may be suffering from a mental health episode, and I think it's important that we have compassion for him and that we understand exactly what it is that we're seeing and we don't discard him and push him to the side.
But we as black folks, we know when we see somebody that's, that's not right now, bro, ain't right. He ain't saying like things that's right, and I'm not excusing him. I'm not on his side. I just say people are food. Everything, this whole cancel culture got us all fucked up.
Oh yeah,
we want to cancel everybody for this and cancel everybody for that, and I think what he's trying to do in his own crazy head, and maybe because I'm crazy too, I understand a little bit of what he's trying to say, but in the same way, is he's not trying to be bogged down by anything. He's trying to just move how he wants to move in freedom. Everything is freedom. Everything is, in his own mind, it's a justice. In his own sick mind.
You can't be free if you're a slave to white supremacy, because he's definitely a slave to white supremacy.
Absolutely.
Right now.
And I'm freely not support his ass. How about that? I'm gonna exercise my freedom to not support him.
And I get that. And you're right. And you're right too. If you're gonna see me with a White Lives Matter shirt, that ain't gonna happen. But he's also the same dude that sat there with the president in his face and was like, George Bush don't like black people.
Right? And we also have to keep in mind that sometimes people who act or have issues like Kanye West, they are geniuses. They do have some type of brilliance. They do have some type of value. And a lot of times what they're saying, there's some truth to it. In between, sprinkled in between all the other stuff that he says that might be outrageous or outlandish. And I think Marlon Wayans really hit that point home. And I hope that everybody else from the outside looking in and is watching this could see that the things that Kanye West are saying, there's some parts that have some validity to it. There's some parts that are completely out there. But I think if we're able to have a dialogue on some of the truths, that we could actually get somewhere and have a better understanding of the relationship in show business and the music industry, and how we can make it better and how we can make it a more, I wouldn't say fair because life is never fair, but how can we make it more transparent as to why things are happening the way they are. And I think if Kanye West is able to bring that type of conversation to the forefront, then so be it, because that's really what this is all about, gaining a level of understanding and also gaining a level of insight, right? So that's really all I want to talk about and discuss at this point in time. You let me know whether you agree or disagree with what I've said. Leave it in the comments. You can share it as well too. But as I always say, it's part of my Presence YouTube channel. Next move, best move. Peace.